Fanfic Corner, presented by Jennifer. The Wedding. Ahsoka peered down through a window of her second-floor bedroom in Lux's mansion on Raxus. She was impressed that he kept it so long solely for his wedding, which was to take place before sunset. It was strange to think that it was her wedding, too. The guests below her were dressed in fine robes, sipping champagne. Everyone was present, mingling with each other. Lux had invited family members from all over the galaxy, while Ahsoka had only asked Obi-Wan to come. Her eye was drawn to the empty seats in the front, reserved for those who had passed on. Lux's parents, Padme, and Anakin. Her master's death during Order 66 had been tough on Ahsoka, and she missed him terribly. "Ahsoka, are you ready?" Lux's aide asked. Ahsoka nodded, taking a deep breath. She couldn't deny her nervousness. Everything was going to turn out fine, she hoped, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something would go wrong. It felt like it had before their first real date. She blinked, focusing back on the moment. "Yeah, I'm ready." Turning to look at herself in the mirror one last time as Ahsoka Tano, she walked out of her room and into the hallway. Her simple cream dress flowed behind her as she walked. She had been called beautiful before, but this was the first time she truly felt beautiful. She rounded the corner, locking eyes with Obi-Wan, who was to walk her down the aisle. He stood waiting next to the balcony doors. It was her idea that she walk the same path as when she and Lux met as teenagers. She took a deep breath, and Obi-Wan gave her a hug. "We are all proud of you, Ahsoka. I hope you know that." They locked elbows before pushing open the door and starting down the stairs. She let her eyes wander to the trees and birds around her. The fountain bubbled in the background, while a soft violin began to play. She made eye contact with Lux, who beamed upon seeing her. He stood tall and confidently, ready to begin a new chapter of life with Ahsoka. A local priest stood behind him, smiling. Unlike him, her nerves were getting the better of her. She was used to being in the spotlight from years of serving as a Jedi commander, but nothing compared to this moment. Before she knew it, they had reached the altar. Obi-Wan pulled her into a hug before placing her hand in Lux's. She looked up into his eyes, and the rest of the world slipped away. It was just the two of them, the priest's voice off in the distance. In that moment, she remembered his proposal, one of the best days of her life. It was a perfect summer evening on Onderon for a picnic. She and Lux were on their way to the small clearing where they liked to spend their free time together. Lux was unusually quiet on the way, but Ahsoka didn't think anything of it. He was probably just lost in thought, which happened from time to time. She picked up on that sort of thing over the course of their time together. It was one of the many things she absolutely loved about him. He knew exactly what to say at the right time and when it was best not to say anything at all. They reached their spot shortly before sundown. Ahsoka never tired of coming to their special place. It was full of milestones. First date, first kiss, first I love you. It seemed to always be sunny there. Everything was beautiful and serene. Something any military commander seldom enjoyed during times of war. Setting up the picnic blanket and the food was almost routine. Every time she came back from the front lines, Lux would take her here for a picnic. It didn't matter how much work he had to do or what he had planned for the day. He always put Ahsoka first. You couldn't have picked a better time to come home. He sat down next to her and started eating. The weather is fantastic. Ahsoka put down her sandwich and looked at Lux. What is it? He asked, a sudden tone of concern. You called this place home. She rested her head on his shoulder. Well, of course. It's the closest thing we've ever had. We? He shifted so that his whole body faced her, taking both her hands in his. Yes, we. You and I have been living here for the past few years, and life is the best it's ever been. All other thoughts were pushed to the back of Ahsoka's mind as she looked up at him. Lux seemed to have that effect on her. He helped her stand up and led her to a gap in the trees where they had a view of the sunset. Colors were watercolored across the sky, creating a picture more vivid than she'd ever seen before. Lux wrapped his arms around her from behind and rested his head between her nostrils. They stayed like that for a few moments, enjoying the peace and comfort that came with being together. It's beautiful. She relaxed in his embrace. Just like someone right here, he said, placing his hands on her hips. She turned around and smiled up at him. He ran a hand through his hair and glanced nervously at his pocket. What? She asked, full of curiosity. Well, he started, holding one of her hands between both of his own. I've been thinking a lot lately about what life could be like if it were like this forever. I knew you were special from the first time I laid eyes on you at 18. I thought about you almost every single day, fantasizing about what life could be like if everything was different. You were a Jedi fighting for the Republic, and I was a senator in training for the Separatists. Now here I am, 26 years old. Everything has changed. Overwhelmed with emotions, Ahsoka started to tear up. Lux, He kissed her gently on the lips, quieting her. I can't imagine the way my life would have turned out if it weren't for you, Ahsoka. I love you so much, I can't imagine a better partner. The world stopped as Lux knelt on one knee in front of her and pulled a little box from his pocket. He opened it to reveal a stunning ring, with a stone matching the coral clouds. Ahsoka Tano, will you marry me? Ahsoka stared at Lux for a moment in a daze. He was asking her to marry him. She had dreamed of this moment her whole life. Yes, she said softly. Oh, force, Lux, yes, she exclaimed louder. Lux slid the ring on her finger and stood up. He picked up Ahsoka and twirled her around as they kissed passionately. She smiled at the memory. Far off in the distance, she heard an explosion. Her senses kicked into high gear. What? Lux asked. She dove deeper into the force, hearing the boots of troopers squish in the mud near their position. How could I have been so stupid? She muttered to herself. She turned her head and made eye contact with Obi-Wan. She gestured to her hip where her lightsabers would have been had she not been in a wedding dress. Obi-Wan's eyes widened, and he nodded in understanding. Ahsoka, Lux said, squeezing her hand. Are you all right? They're here. She turned to address the priest. Everyone needs to get to the shelters immediately. He nodded and made the announcement. The guests followed him inside as Obi-Wan ran up to Ahsoka and Lux. You two need to go inside with the rest of the guests. I can handle this. Ahsoka placed a hand on his shoulder. No way you're having fun without me. Nor me, Lux piped in. Obi-Wan rolled his eyes. If you insist, though I'm not sure how well this is going to work in that dress. Ahsoka wrinkled. The Imperial presence on Rexus is recently. It's either the entire army or a small patrol group. Lux peered through the trees. Let's hope for the latter. Suddenly, shots burst out from the forest behind them. Stormtroopers flooded out in waves, trying to shoot them. Obi-Wan tossed Ahsoka her lightsabers before diving right into the battle. Ahsoka followed, slashing through their weapons. After the false accusations about her killing troopers before her expulsion from the Order, she was wary of killing troopers, no matter what side of the war. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Lux go straight for the commander. He was about her age, with blonde hair and sideburns. She had never seen him before, but Lux obviously had. He walked straight up to him and punched him square in the face, not even bothering to draw his weapon. After years, you show up here wreaking havoc on my wedding day? Lux fumed. Bonteri, the man hissed, blood gushing out of his nose. After all I did for you, Agent Kallus, you try to destroy me? Shame on you. Ahsoka had never seen Lux so mad before. It was a bit frightening. Agent Kallus motioned for the troopers to stand down. They circled around Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, Lux, and Agent Kallus. It was a mistake. The man got to his feet and wiped some of the blood from his face. But I sure did get lucky this round. 2 Jedi and an old friend. I'm going to have to take you all. Ahsoka stepped forward, pointing her lightsaber at him. We are not going anywhere with you. I beg to differ, he snarled. The Empire has offered a handsome reward for anyone that catches a Jedi, and I have 2. Lux's eyes narrowed. You have approximately 60 seconds to forget you ever came across us and get your men off my property. Or else what? Lux pulled a blaster from his jacket and pushed it against Agent Kallus's chest. All heck breaks loose. I have powerful friends in the Senate, should you choose not to cooperate. Fine, he muttered through clenched teeth. He and his men started to leave. Stopping for a moment, he turned his head. I thought it was illegal for a Jedi to marry. Ahsoka stepped forward and handed her lightsaber back to Obi-Wan. Times have changed, and so have I. So have all of us. He disappeared through the trees without another word. Ahsoka looked at Lux. Remind me not to get on your bad side, she joked. He gave her a hug. You won't. Who is this Agent Kallus? We were best friends growing up. After he found out that I joined the Republic Senate, he burned half of this forest to the ground and did some terrible things to myself and my family name. We haven't spoken since. There was an extended period of silence as Obi-Wan went to tell the guests it was safe to come out, and the couple made their way back to the altar. The priest acted like nothing had happened and began the ceremony without delay. Dearly beloved, he began. "We are gathered here in this evening to witness this man and woman joined together in holy matrimony." He paused, and both Lux and Ahsoka in their eyes looked both Lux and Ahsoka in the eyes before delivering his speech. "Lux Bonteri, do you take Ahsoka Tano to be your lawfully wedded wife, your constant friend, your faithful partner, and your love from this day forward?" He took her hand and squeezed it gently. "I do." The priest turned to Ahsoka. "And do you, Ahsoka Tano, take Lux Bonteri to be your lawfully wedded husband, your constant friend, your faithful partner, and your love from this day forward?" "I do." The ring bearer, one of Lux's little cousins, came forward and presented them with the rings. Was this really happening? Would she soon be Mrs. Bonteri? She smiled at the thought, placing Lux's ring on his finger. He did the same. "Then, with the power invested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." The guests clapped and cheered as Lux bent down and planted a soft kiss on her lips.